listening to Top Tier Underground, the podcast that gets inside the mind of your favorite underground artists. Top Tier Underground is brought to you with the help of an awesome Boise-based company, Kevin Gear Graphic Design. Kevin helps us look fly with our marketing materials, and he's a good one to check out if you're in need of anything graphic related. Eric and I work overtime on this podcast. We do this because we love getting to know our favorite music artists, but we also need your help to grow. If you would like to help Top Tier Underground, please post to your social and rate us on iTunes and Stitcher. It only takes a couple minutes and it helps us a ton. Also, if you have any tips or feedback to improve us, please email at toptierunderground@gmail.com. Thank you for your support. Now for our third guest from the Vibe.Digital takeover in March, FYOOMZ. Amazing producer, killer DJ, and the founder of this awesome record label. I love the passion he shows in his interview. Plus, we get to learn about his day job at the David Lynch Foundation, which is a nonprofit that is based around meditation. Please follow FYOOMZ and Vibe.Digital, links in the show notes. All right, here's your episode.
All right, I'm here with FYOOMZ. So FYOOMZ, you are a part. I'm really stoked to have you on. You're part of the Vibe.Digital family, and this is a really great label. I really like what you guys are doing, and I love obviously the genre is great and it's kind of up and coming. So I'm stoked to have you on here. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got involved with Vibe.Digital and what your guys' mission is as a collective?
Right. So I started Vibe.Digital as a radio show about a year and a half ago now. I was in Iowa, kind of had too much time on my hands. I had just moved back there from New York to help my sick mother. And while I was out there, I figured I would make use of my DJ skills, and I started a radio show and started, for a little while, it was a struggle trying to get people to do guest mixes and trying to figure out a way to keep the music fresh. I didn't really feel like I had a lot of traction until maybe 6 months in, when it became clear that I was working with these guys, Mingo and Jedi, throughout that time. But it never really became clear that to bring them on board like in any official capacity until about 6 months in. And we played this show. Well, first I went to one of their shows where was it? They were playing Mingo and Jedi played back-to-back opening for Brothel at Wormhole in the Bay Area there in Oakland. And then after that, Mingo, Jedi, and myself all played at the Brothel and Friends event, which was in Denver. This was like about a year ago now, last January of 2018. And we all kind of realized that we had a dynamic together that was special. It was something that we really built off of each other's energy, and we sort of decided that we wanted to keep it going. And so I had been thinking for a while, my buddy Mingo, like he's one of the best producers that I know in terms of just his production quality, his ideas, the way he has evolved. I've watched him go from being, like a decent producer, has sort of put some things together that were kind of interesting, to being someone who I think just absolutely kills it. And I was like, well, and meanwhile, like it's a year ago and no one is signing my boy Mingo. I'm like, what is going on? Someone needs to sign this guy's music. Who's going to sign this guy's music? And then all of a sudden it hit me, I'm going to sign this guy's music.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Vibe.Digital is going to turn into a radio show and a record label. And my first release is going to be this track that Mingo can't release anywhere else. I'm going to do it myself. And that track, Missed Call, that he did with Pink Nokia, that track has gotten I think it's our second most played out track on Spotify right now.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was first, but we've had a lot of music and a lot of good music since then. And that's one of our most popular tracks for sure. I guess so. And then we were also thinking about how do we, in Jedi was also sort of, Mingo and Jedi were joining me on the label. So it was going to be the three of us running the record label. Jedi also had an idea because he went on tour with Dead Crow and he managed Dead Crow's tour around the country. So he had the idea, I can do this for more artists than just, have this as a one-off. I could do this for, other people as well. Why don't I start like an agency and try and make this happen for the scene at large in the United States? And I was very supportive of that. Jordan Mingo was very supportive of that. And he decided to start the agency, and then it just became clear that he should join with us. So all of a sudden it went from being a radio show to also being a record label to also being an agency. So
That's
and
awesome.
we're, helping artists get booked across the country. And now we work with promoters up and down the West Coast, into the Midwest, in the mountain area, like now in New York City. We just had our first label showcase in New York City like 2 nights ago. Actually, this was the Brothel and Myth headlined event. And it went off. It was like 150 people in the club. It was like a 200-person capacity venue.
Awesome.
Felt very, very packed in there. And we were very happy.
Man, that's so great. I love hearing stories like this because, like, the thing about the music business or any aspect of it, the most important thing is like working with others, and like
Absolutely.
that is the key to success. And I think oftentimes people I lived in Boise and used to do stuff there, and it was really hard for me at first because I used to be a promoter down there. It was really hard for me at first because Boise
is like one of our biggest cities, actually. Like probably our single biggest city is Boise, honestly.
Yeah, totally. I know. I'm really close friends with the people that are bringing Mingo there, and
awesome.
So I know those guys really well, and I've known them forever, and so at first when I first started throwing events there, and my friend Sam Cassay, who he's knows Brett and all those guys, like him and I started this like little thing together called Heady Hittas, and it was like the first time that like the community started to like work on music together, because I think before this point a lot of people were like intimidated to show each other just working on music in Ableton. It was like it was like people that were doing it decently were too afraid to show others because they were afraid that like they would lose their place, and this happens all the time in music. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like people are afraid of connecting and like realizing the power in numbers. So it's so important to get like people together, open your laptops together, come up with ideas together, because art can't be replicated. It's impossible. You know what I mean? It's like,
absolutely.
And everybody's going to come to it with their own style and their own spin, and no matter what and it's kind of proof in like in projects like where you get the same sample packs and everybody writes their own version of it and stuff like that. It's kind of like proof, because everybody will come up with such a different version. It's so unique to that person. And so it's like the fear of not bonding together is like that'll kill you, not bonding together. So it's great that you guys have had this capacity to start kind of just building an empire on the wave front, which is this new front. It's so great to see. So how long have you known these guys?
Yeah, so Jordan Mingo, I met him in 2016. I have to really give a big shout out to Plastician, because without Plastician, I don't know if any of us would have really connected. We all coalesced around his Rinse FM show when he did it. I mean, he was the longest running DJ on Rinse, and he had a show for something like 10 or 11 years. Yeah. And he started to heavily push this sort of emotional, kind of trapped out,
the wave pool mix,
bass music that like we didn't really know what to label. For a long time, like when I was listening to the show, he would play these songs and he would just call them the wavy bits. Yeah. Like we're going to get into some wavy bits right now. And I think it was Climax who originally labeled his tracks on SoundCloud as like #wave or whatever. Then it was like, 2012, 2013. And then that just slowly caught on. And then all of a sudden, it's 2016, it's 2015, 2016. The Wave Mob starts as a collective. Right. And it really sort of takes off from there. A collective and a label. Yeah. But Plastician was the guy where everyone sent him music. He was the one who had the mix every week. there's hundreds of people listening in live, and then there's usually around 10 to 20,000 people who play back the mix. So if you could get one of your songs into a plastician mix, then you were going somewhere. That's like the first time that happened for me. That's when I knew that I was onto something, that I wasn't just dicking around in my DAW, that I was actually making music that could maybe go somewhere. Yeah. And I think Jordan had sort of a similar experience, Mingo, and he sent music to Plastician. And I think we were both featured in one of the Rinse FM shows, like pretty close to each other. And everyone would also comment on that podcast, on SoundCloud. It all happened on SoundCloud. So I was like, he identified, like someone asked, like, oh, what is this track ID? And Mingo identifies his own track. And then I send Mingo a direct message like, yo, this is a dope track, dude. Really, really nice work. Oh, thanks, man. And all of a sudden the dialogue starts, and then we're making a song together. That song, Plastician goes on to sign, and he releases that song on the Wave Pool too. And then, that's sort of just how it happened. And then I made an effort to go out to Boulder, Colorado, where he lives, and hang out with the guy. And we met for the first time, and I gelled with him. I didn't have a lot of time for him. I only had a few hours before I was like en route to another city. But then I came back and we hung out, and then we played our first show together. And now all of a sudden he's like my fast homie, brother for life. Yeah. And we found each other through music. With Brett, it was a little different. Brett was very much, I think, in sort of the West Coast. I mean, and I'm sure you'll have an interview with him and he can tell his own story. But very briefly, he was in the like West Coast bass scene for a long time, glitch hop and whatnot, and didn't really find. I think he was. It wasn't. Eventually, he evolved past that scene, and he decided to sort of explore this more emotional side of bass music, and found us. He would reach out to me, and I think he slid into my SoundCloud DMs is how I first met him. And then I started sending him music because I saw he did mixes, and he played some of my tracks. He was one of the first DJs outside of Plastician to play one of my tracks. Yeah. So I kept sending him music, and then all of a sudden Jedi and Mingo are playing back to back, opening up for Brothel, and and then it was sort of off to the races. And I met them in Oakland, and I kind of can't believe that it's only been a year and a half, 2 years since I've met Brett Jedi. Again, now he's my fast homie. Like we both live in New York City now. I just got him a job at my workplace at the David Lynch Foundation, so I get to have FaceTime like with him every day. I get to talk to him, and the label really benefits from that, being able to talk, spitball ideas back and forth. So that's how I met the homies. Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
For sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I didn't realize that he moved out there to New York, but that's cool. So do you guys, I mean, I know that this is kind of outside of the realm of Wave, but do you guys ever do like drum and bass stuff over there? Because there's a fucking huge drum and bass scene over there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if drum and bass is necessarily a scene that we want to make inroads into at the moment. I will say that
like Slake, that club Slake,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, dude, that's
I like Slake. I saw Mala, the UK dubstep.
Yeah.
Old school dubstep guy. I saw him there for the first time, and he blew my mind.
Yeah, dude, that club is like the sickest club, dude. That's like one of my favorite.
I really like that club.
It's so sweet.
So, I mean, it's interesting, actually, because a lot of people are coming to drum and bass, like Wave producers are coming to drum and bass from Wave. And so it's very much like a liquid drum and bass kind of feel.
Totally. That's what it reminds me of. Like just like the progression and the bass lines and stuff are very similar. I mean, I tend to like slower. I love drum and bass. Drum and bass is like probably drum and bass and halftime are my things. You know what I mean? Like those, that's just what I've always liked is that kind of stuff. But I mean, I definitely I love the emotion that you can pull out of these Wave tracks. Like, it's something that even in liquid drum and bass, I mean, liquid drum and bass, you can get that emotion if it's like 4 a.m. and you're on a bunch of acid. but like Wave, like you can be driving in your car at 4 a.m. totally sober with the kids in the minivan, and you know what I mean? Like you can pull that emotion. Like it's got this just empowering, kind of like uplifting, like it motivates you, you know? It's so great, man.
Yeah. I mean, it pulls from so many different genres, and there's one really cool thing about Wave is that it doesn't really have any set BPM. You know, it's like if you're talking drum and bass, you're really talking like, 80 to 90 or whatever, 160 to 180.
85.
That's like very much constrained within that BPM. Dubstep is all at 140. Sometimes they go up to 145 or something. But Wave is anything you want it to be. Put it at any BPM in your DAW, and it'll go.
Right.
So like while I say like Vibe.Digital is not really going to ever be a drum and bass label, I don't think.
Yeah.
We are going to be releasing some tracks that I would say a lot of people would classify as drum and bass.
Sure.
We have a 2-track single from Giant Ibis coming out pretty soon it's basically drum and bass. Really, really dope, interesting stuff that he's making. He's really is a producer to watch, and I've watched him evolve over the last few years. I've even collaborated with him a few times, and he's really found his sound lately. All the new stuff he's been sending me is really top notch. And then we also have another guy in Shenzhen, which is just north of Hong Kong in China. He goes by Basic with a 3 instead of a B. And we released a track with him and this other Chinese producer, LJC. They had a collab track that we released in October. But Basic is also putting together an EP for us, and he sent me a few of the tracks, and it's hard for me to the closest thing I would say is drum and bass. It's as fast as drum and bass, a lot of the tracks, but they're different. They're not like your usual drum and bass type fare. It's interesting. It's hard for me to sort of put
like
my
a different
on
rhythm to it. Are you saying like different drum rhythms, or is that what the differential?
Different drum rhythms, sort of different sounds that I'm accustomed to hearing in drum and bass. Like it's very far removed from like the UK or American drum and bass scenes, I would say.
Yeah, man, that's the great thing about like where we're at with music, because I'm On Hell, right? Angel. Yeah,
absolutely. He's actually we're releasing him too.
yeah, he's a friend, and we were just talking the other day about this, like how anymore it seems like back in the day, if you wanted to release music and have people hear it, which is like the key, right? You would have to get signed on to some shitty label that would have your fucking entire life under black ink. And if you ever wanted to change anything, good luck. And if you ever wanted to make money off of it, good luck. And you know what I mean? So there was like all these constituents of being an artist back in the day. And now it seems like there's this ability to you could make Nintendo sex songs and, and specialize that dramatically. And you would have a fan base, because the world's huge. There's a shitload of people in it, and the internet gets it to anybody. And there are people that are going to appreciate it. You know what I mean? And it's this it's this beautiful thing where you don't have to be constrained inside of these like rhythmic boxes of, this is drum and bass. This is exactly what drum and bass sounds like. This is what people expect from drum and bass. It's like now you can like literally put hashtag, Nintendo sex song and create your own genre, and it will just envelop, you know what I mean? And you see it happening where these genres will just kind of pop into existence, and it's like redefining music, and I really think that's what's happening right now with Wave. This is that new front. So congratulations, 100%. You're a part of it.
I appreciate that. We contribute where we can.
Yeah, totally. So what's the future looking like for Vibe.Digital? What are some things that you're kind of driving towards? Like, what do you think the direction is for this?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of love for the Wave scene and all the songs that have been made the songs that still maybe have their roots in like a 2017, 2016 sound. I think there's still plenty of great music that's still coming out with that type of a sound that people should pay attention to and listen to and rinse playing out and all that. But with Vibe.Digital, I'm more interested in releasing music that is sort of going to push the boundary on what people think is possible with wave music and sort of get into uncharted territory to a certain extent. So that's more like in terms of what I'm looking for. Like, I think a lot of people think, hear the back catalog and it's like, okay, he wants like wave music. The guys at Vibe.Digital want wave music. And we do want wave music, don't get me wrong. And, we're going to have a very wavy release coming out with iSoren pretty soon, in a month or two here. But we are looking for artists to push their boundaries. Like every release I want this year, each artist to push their boundaries on like their production style. Like what can they do that's different, that's interesting, that's helping the genre to evolve. Because I think wave music is in a place, in my opinion, where it's evolve or die. Like there are fans.
It's going to be the next West Coast bass music. Like West Coast was the thing for a very short blip, and then it was like rode hard and put away wet, and now it's just it's still out there, but it's it's not like on that same front like what you're talking about. And I think you're absolutely right. This is a good decision to try to push the boundaries and not be put inside of a box, because
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, I just want to keep seeing like what's possible. And, not every release is going to be like weird or experimental. But we are going to release some weird and experimental stuff, that I think hopefully people will still want to drop in their DJ sets, on the radio and whatnot. But, so that being said, we will have other releases that are a little bit more traditionally wavy and I don't know, man, like I've got a record label, like, and I run it with my homies. Like we can release whatever we like, it's like whatever music that we think is dope, we can release. That is the nice thing about having a label. And, for a long time, I always thought like, oh, like how will I get signed? How will I have other people, make this happen for me? And the great thing about the wave scene is that you can do it yourself.
Right.
And people will support you. Like you can start your own radio show. You can start, even just like a SoundCloud mix series, which is what I did for a while. You can start your own blog. You can do whatever you want to do, and people will heavily support in the wave scene. Like the wave scene is the most supportive place in electronic music. I really believe that.
Yeah, that's great, man. I think that's awesome. And what about for the like you said that you guys kind of do some booking stuff. Are you guys trying to book more like tours and what?
Yeah.
What are your plans on that side of the things? Do you have any?
Yeah. So so Brett is the sort of on the forefront of the agency. He runs that day to day, and I, help him out where I can when I have time away from the label. I think our plan is to sort of do like 3 to 4 tours per year if we can with the artists that we have in our agency, at least for now. If we sign more people, that may change. It may be more frequent. But 3 or 4 tours a year, like a seasonal tour, and then a bunch of one-offs in different cities wherever we get booked. So like Mingo's coming up to Boise right now, and he's, that seems like they're rolling out the red carpet for him out there, putting him up. It's going to be a dope show. I'm like super excited for him. But that's a one-off, that's probably not a tour for Mingo. And hopefully we will have a tour for him later this year. But then, we're talking to Sorcery right now. It's time to get his like visa status. With any luck, we'll get him a work visa and he can come, take some vacation and tour around the United States, because I know there's a lot of people who would book him if we can get him out here. Yeah. And then Brothel is kind of Jordan, Brett, and I all joke that we call Brothel our unicorn. He's the magical being that gallops into the new frontier. for us. And he always he headlined our show in New York, and he brought out everyone. There was a many reasons I think why we had a successful show last weekend, but definitely booking Brothel was one of them. And he has a lot of fans all around the United States, and he was talking to us about all kinds of different tours that he wants with different acts, people maybe that like you wouldn't expect. So yeah, I expect to see more tour dates from Brothel. Hopefully some from Sorcery. Definitely many from Noah B. Noah is ready. He's like, his output in terms of like the amount of music that he's making these days is really blowing my mind. And he's also starting to really pick up in terms of his bookings and the number of shows he wants to play. I don't know if he wanted to play as many shows, or maybe he did, but just wasn't getting the bookings. But he's getting the bookings now. And then towards the end of next year, I think we're going to bring Skeller back probably if he's down, and do another tour with Skeller. But he's from Australia, so we have to plan that one out. It can't be. We have to give more advance notice to everybody for that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so, I mean, we just talked about Vibe.Digital a lot, but we didn't really talk too much about you. So I do want to just ask you a few more questions, just about.
Yeah, of course, man.
So what do you write in? Do you write in Ableton or?
Yeah. So I use 3 different DAWs right now. My preferred, I guess, would be Logic. But definitely a close second is FL Studio. And I know how to use Ableton as well. Just because so many producers that I know use Ableton, I've kind of just picked up some things. I've made a few tracks there now. So, most of my solo releases were all made in Logic 9. And then, I learned how to use a digital audio workstation with FL Studio. So I use all 3, I guess.
Cool, man. Yeah, I love Logic for like cleaning, like mixing down and stuff like that. It's nice. It's great for that. So, and like, what's your process like? Do you, everybody's got a different writing process. When you sit down and you're going to start a new track, like what's the first thing that you start with and kind of like, what's your process?
Yeah. So it sort of depends on like the genre I'm making or like what my mood is. I'll often, like in the past, I would often start with either, I would think of a melody, either some like little plucky line or something, or a bass line. And I would put those down and start to fill in things around that. But now, I also like, I've been experimenting with some more sort of grimy, trappy stuff. And that doesn't necessarily have a melody, but it does have consistent like percussion. So I'll hear like some sort of like grime weird thing, and I'll lay that bass line down with the percussion and then build the melodic elements around that. So I guess it sort of depends on the style that I'm going for. I'll definitely drop some of those grimier bits in the mix that I do for you, so you'll be able to hear some of those. Awesome,
man. That's exciting. I'm stoked to hear it. What about when you go out to shows and play? Do you play off of Ableton, or do you do CDJs, or what?
Yeah, I definitely prefer CDJs. I usually end up, so like I have some CDJ 400s that I've basically been permanently lending out to everyone I know because I knew that it's like, I've known how to use CDJs for the last 10 years, but I would go out to these wave shows and I would see people struggling with like technical difficulties, dealing with a laptop, trying to figure out to put their sound card into a mixer, and all that stuff. And it's just like so much pain. And I was realizing, especially as I figured out that we were going to start pushing live shows in addition to, the record label side, that people really need to know how to use CDJs. So I have a pair of 400s with like a Behringer mixer. I've lent those out to like everyone I know. Right now they're at Brent's parents' house, I think.
Nice.
So I definitely prefer CDJs. I also have Tractor that I end up recording a lot of mixes on just because I don't have my CDJs here. And I know, and I used to know, I came up using Tractor before I had CDJs, but yeah, CDJs are the thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I know it's like if everybody was down, I mean, I'm not like one of those people that's like, oh, I started on turntables or whatever, you know, like I'm not like that. But if everybody like did know how to play on CDJs, it would make shows so much smoother, because transition
it really would
between artists, and like especially if the booth isn't very big and then you've got fucking 4 people up there tearing wires around and like, you know what I mean? And it's just like, yeah, I think
the main thing that I sold people on is like, hey, do you want to get on our lineups? Well, if you're not that well known, you're gonna have to go back to back with another producer, or you could even go back to back with me.
Right.
But you need to know how to use CDJs. Like, there's no way we're going back to back playing laptops.
Right.
That's just not gonna happen.
Well, and anymore, CDJs now anymore are so easy. I mean, like they have everything that you.
They're a lot easier than they used to be. The learning curve is a lot gentler.
It's so easy. Sure. I mean, you could like they even have sync buttons now. I just got a new pair. And, and I know, and my new pair has a sync button. And I had before this pair, I had like the older 900s, not the 900 Nexuses, and I had those, and I didn't have a sync button on that. And I got a sync button now, and I'm just like, damn, I mean, like I don't use it, but it's like such a huge like thing. Like I get it, because Pioneer's trying to make it more bioavailable for everybody, but it's still like I'm gripping on to the last, you know what I mean? The last little bit.
Totally get it. I mean, I don't use the sync button.
I know.
You know, maybe if you have like weird transition where you need to go from like 1 BPM to a dramatically different one, that could be useful. You know, and I might use it for that. Yeah. But yeah, sync buttons on the CDJs, I feel like are really unnecessary.
Yeah, it was just like, I mean, the old school, you know, douchebag in me was just like, damn, we're losing the art. But at the same time, art evolves, and it's good to be, you know, understanding to that. So it's not, you know, I try really hard not to be like that jaded person. But so that's cool, man. Well, I think that's really awesome, the way that you guys are doing this, and I'm so stoked to see you guys do this. You know, I reached out to Brett just because I know of him and know him, or kind of talk to him and stuff. But it's really good to meet you, and I think that you guys are on a really good path, and I love your mindset on not getting stuck in those containers, like what we were just talking about. You know.
Well, we're lucky. We're lucky with the wave scene, because the wave evolved from so many other things, and it doesn't have a BPM, and we're very lucky. Yeah,
man, that's great. Yeah, well, shit. Why don't you tell everybody how they can find you on SoundCloud and, you know, Facebook or whatever socials you're on? And
yeah, absolutely. So my artist name is FYOOMZ. That's spelled FYOOMZ. You just put that into Facebook or SoundCloud or Instagram, Twitter. Those are my social platforms. That's where I hang out. I haven't actually released any music for the last 6 or 7 months, but I have this big backlog that I'm going to start putting out pretty soon here. And yeah, man, thanks for having me on. This was great.
Yeah, I'm stoked. And just hang out with me just for 1 second, and then the listeners can check out your mix. So hang out just for a second.
Everybody there, me won't start warm up without them there. And then when they figure fuck up, come in and take time. Like Babylon, fuck up, they weren't here for the struggle or start off. Listen, this music culture, so me rise umbrella upon a vulture. Me no want no pagan come round, and I stand up at the front, my seat like a soldier, but up it beat and bend wide body like yoga. Anytime my dogs them walk over, from long time in these stripes for the shoulder, but one smelly aroma. Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. Me there for supporters, them there for the playlist. Some of them selectors have to follow orders, so they're never gonna play this. Killing with the latest, and nothing make room, next spaces. Step in a face, night blue, tight laces. Send them and never harpoon on the basis. They were true when crime needed saving. Me and them are not culture, so the sky high rates for the dog place. Me the run with a skin with promoter. I tell the money up front on me, now chat. I run up on the stage and read off. My belly off it full, my weed off it strap. I represent grime to the max, so I wanna see the gun fingers from the front to the back. Simple, like the man they ain't making progress. They get gas when they hear a hit single, but don't wanna be a part of the process. That's why they part of them, the man they can't mix, not mingle. Can't hold up my management for a jingle. Only got time for the certified dons from back in the day when wins was illegal. Me and them are not family, so you never see me blessed with a pagan. One time they don't try to brand me. I got fire when I burn that blatant. Run up on station, never got a bad reputation. I like my thing in any place or occasion. Tell some man stay bullseye when we're having one of our grand celebrations. Having one of our grand celebrations. This gon' be a wild night. Got 'em like shit get wild. I smoke loud. Yo shit mild. That ain't my style. Yo bitch wanna have my child. Ain't gonna get your wedding vow. Shawty wanna lick my crown. I'm a king. Take a bow. Juicy J don't fuck around. Brand new roller. Bust it down. All this smoke. That's a pound. Call my car the smoker's lounge. Cop it now. Got too much sauce. You a fuck around and drown. And all these niggas biting off the 3-6 sound. But you bitches know the difference, y'all a bunch of clowns. You a worker, I'm a boss. That shit fake, knock it off. I just left with all these bitches, need some help to fuck them all. Drink on ice, wrist on frost. She was like, what's the cost? All night she topped me off, I gave her pipe, no exhaust. It's gonna be a wild night. It's gonna be a wild night. Got 'em like, it's gonna be a wild night. It's gonna be a wild night. Got 'em like, it's gonna be a wild night. It's gonna be a wild night. Got 'em like, it's gonna be a wild night. It's gonna be a wild night. Got 'em like. against the wall. Don't think twice, sign it hard to the grip, cause it ain't me.
She said, I'm that nigga. I said, I'm that nigga, bitch, I already knew it. I come with bad weather. They say I'm a storm. VVS is in my drum, that's a Rockefeller chain. I was sending bricks to Harlem back when Jay was still with Dane. Shout, I gotta protect on. Gotta be careful with me. She picked up the chick on. She don't need makeup. She gon' rake up. Tell me to pay up. She said, hey, pay for the pussy. Wait for the pussy, wait for the pussy. They gonna feel me? Cause I pray for the pussy, pray for the pussy. I tell all my hoes, break it up, break it down, bag it up,
That's where they stay from. Throw it up, ducks on the Cadillac, white tees, Nikes. Gangsters don't know how to act. Mags been head, college park, cover home. Homeless folk, home, choking on that home. Pick up that southern cooking, that got them fellas looking. Thinking I was easy, I can see it. That's when I say no. What for? Shorty can't handle this. Ever got that body like
call up Jazzy, tell him pop the bottles, cause we got another hit. Wanna go platinum, I'm who you should get. Ludacris on the track, get back, tricks, switch on the lack, I'm flexing steel. Same price, different time, hot song, jumped on, cause we ever got sex appeal. And I keep the meanest, cleanest, baddest, spinning on stainless wheels. Could care less about your genius, I bump your status, I keep the stainless steel. Trunk rattling, what's happening high? I don't even think I need the speed. Bass traveling, bass crackling high. Turn it up and make the speakers bleed. Dirty South, we ballin', dawg. And never think about falling, dawg. Ghetto harmonizing, surprising, running back cause the song is cool.
pills and I'm having a thrill. Taking prescriptions, a hell of a feeling. Ask me the Zanny, I never forgot it. Got them begging and calling my phone, trying to have a menage. Gotta pull up the cash, can't even stay in the house cause it's too much to hide. Whip the 4-2, but now I gotta pay up the rent, I was too far behind. Fuck them 2 at a time. Fuck them 2 at a time. Had to do what I had to do, get where I'm at, niggas know I ain't lying. Niggas know I ain't lying. It's a lot on my mind. It's a lot on my plate. But I never complain. I was working the weight like I came out the gym. I never did train. Put the girl on the train. Scrap the bird on the back, now she came back with change. Hey, I just fuck your bitch and some Gucci flip-flops. I just had some bitches and I made them lip lock. I just took a piss and I seen codeine coming out. We got purple activists, I thought it was a drought. I just fuck your bitch and some Gucci flip-flops. I just had some bitches and I made them lip lock. I just took a piss and I seen codeine coming out. We got purple activists, I thought it was a drought. I scrapped the bitch to the scout. First time I gave her an ounce. I put up the rest in the account. Told her bitch can't be running your mouth. Better watch what you say to these niggas. Cause you already know what they bout. Put the game in the choke in the knot. Hit that bitch while I'm choking her out. Put the hook on her, now she got love in the south. I got some purple on me now.